Hi folks, if you're just joining us, we'll be starting in just a minute. Hello, Nick Smith here, speaking to you from London. Welcome to number 26 in our series of Alpine ClubCasts. Tonight we're delighted to welcome our special guest, Catherine Destivelle. This year the Alpine Club is celebrating the happenings of 1871, when Lucy Walker and Meta Brevoort became the first women to climb the Matterhorn and 3 other major alpine peaks. This summer's Women Rise Up meet has had an overwhelming response and attracted over 200 female applicants, all of whom have been invited this evening, so very special welcome to you. Also speaking tonight are Clare Roche and Becky. I really hope you enjoy it. The Alpine Club is an extremely active club for alpinists, and we're always looking for potential new members. We welcome both experienced alpinists and those gathering their experience who may be suited to aspirant membership. If you'd like more information on joining, then please get in touch with me. I run the Meets programme, or have a look at our website. We've just had a fantastic club meet on Skye and a meet in North Wales. If you're watching live on YouTube or Zoom, please add any questions for our speakers to the chat as we go along. I will try to get those answered at the end. And as usual, anyone on Zoom, you will be unmuted at the end for any applause, and do stick around for a chat. I'm now going to hand over to Melanie Windridge, our host for the evening. Melanie is a physicist, speaker and writer who likes to combine science with adventure. She's written a book on the Northern Lights that included a ski expedition in Svalbard in winter, and she's also climbed Everest and written about the science that gets us to the summit. She's also a past vice president of the Alpine Club. Melanie's joining us from her home in Buckinghamshire. Over to you, Melanie.
Well, thank you, Nick, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as your host for this evening. We've got some great speakers tonight as we celebrate pioneering female climbers during this year of the 150th anniversary of the first female ascent of the Matterhorn. Clare Roche will give us some history, followed by Becky to tell us about the Alpine Club's Women Rise Up, and then Catherine Destivelle will tell us about her inspiration for her pioneering climbs. So let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce Clare Roche, who is joining us from Sussex. Clare is a physiotherapist and historian. Her PhD researched women mountaineers in the 19th century. Clare is an Alpine Club member and has climbed and ski toured for several years in the Alps. She says that recently, long-distance hiking routes and cycle touring are proving easier on the body. Over to you, Clare.
Well, hello. Thank you, Melanie. I must say, I'm so pleased to be asked to contribute to this evening, as it marries together my abiding interests in history, mountains, and those women who have or are stepping outside the perceived conventions of their time, who dared to challenge the status quo. So, my role this evening is, first of all, to give you some historical background to the lives and climbs of Lucy Walker and Meta Brevoort, and particularly the summer of 1871. And then secondary, just to provide a very brief idea of the legal, gender, and social situations these women lived under, conditions that highlight why mountaineering can be so liberating for women and why this anniversary is important to celebrate. In 1871 then, Walker was 35 years old and had been climbing for 13 years. Her first alpine trip was in 1858, just 6 months after the creation of the Alpine Club. She was born in Canada, came back to the UK, to Liverpool at the age of 3 with her younger brother, Horace, who was also a notable climber. Her father had climbed as a younger man, and it was he who introduced both her and Horace to the mountains. And she climbed with him or her brother almost exclusively for her entire climbing career. So Lucy had the benefit of starting climbing as a young woman under the guidance and in the close companionship of her family. Brevoort, by contrast, began climbing 7 years later than Walker in 1865 at the age of 39, which made her 46 come 1871. An American of Dutch ancestry, she really stumbled upon mountaineering whilst bringing her nephew, William Coolidge, who's standing next to her in this photograph, to Europe for his health. Originally, they went to the Mediterranean, but quickly Brevoort thought that the cooler air of the mountains would suit him better. They went to the Alps and both really fell in love with the mountains after that. In contrast to Lucy, Meta was middle-aged then before she started climbing. And unlike Walker, Brevoort was the instigator, the financier, and the organizer of all her alpine trips, with the added responsibility of having a teenage boy in tow into the bargain. Now, of course, there were other women who were climbing between 1857 and 1871. The Jungfrau Monte Rosa Bietschhorn, for example, all saw first ascents by women. And I've listed a few other ones here. But Walker and Brevoort were the first women to climb consistently over several years and to develop close relationships with their guides. And they set an example for subsequent women to follow. And here we have Brevoort admitting the influence Walker had on her, and Whymper describing the almost celebrity status that Lucy had developed by the last decades of the century. So Lucy's guide, with whom she maintained a lifelong close friendship, was Melchior Anderegg, and he's pictured here behind Frank Walker. And he became one of the most famous and sought after guides in the 19th century. Both he and Lucy, by all accounts, were practical, pragmatic, and had good sense of humour. They got on well almost immediately. And so this is the list of her first ascents up to 1871, which were done almost exclusively with Anderegg. Brevoort's guide, Christian Almer, was equally well known. Meta, though, used some deception when she initially engaged him. She didn't make it clear she was a woman. Christian's son, Ulrich, was sent over to Wengen to bring her to Grindelwald and was clearly shocked to see M. Brevoort was female. Christian, however, when he met her, was a bit nonplussed and just said, well, it depends how she goes up the mountain. And clearly she acquitted herself fairly well, as the Almers remained their guides for the remainder of her climbing career. And it was them, of course, who gave Shingle, the beagle dog, to Brevoort. And it's at this point, one should probably say that Shingle was the only female member of the Alpine Club until 1974. Of course, they thought Shingle was a boy initially. Otherwise, it would never have been a member. Anyway, unlike with Walker, the relationship with the Almers actually was often quite stormy. And there were plenty of rows, each walking out on the other on occasions. But by 1871, things seemingly had calmed a little. And it was Almer overhearing that Anderegg was proposing for Lucy to climb the Matterhorn that prompted him to suggest Meta should also attempt it. So the summer of 1871 saw Lucy arrive in the Alps around the 20th of June, and she spent a good acclimatization week in the Bernese Alps, walking over a few high passes, not with Anderegg. On the 5th of July, she climbed Monte Leone, 3,500 metre summit down near the Italian border, and 3 days later drew nearer to Zermatt, becoming the first woman to climb Castor. Went into Italy for the night and then crossed over to Zermatt the following day, July the 10th. Clearly now she was getting into her stride, because on the 15th, she went into the Saas Valley and climbed Balfrin. And 2 days later, tried to climb the Weisshorn. She had climbed it once before, on this occasion unsuccessful. No, don't really know why. Anyhow, by the time it came for her to climb the Matterhorn on July the 21st, she was absolutely climbing fit. Brevoort started her 1871 climbing season a couple of weeks later than Walker on the 5th of July, with an easy climb in the Oberland. Just 2 days later, though, she went up the Eiger, probably the west flank from Kleine Scheidegg. A week later, she was the first woman to climb the nearby Silberhorn, and a few days after that, the first woman to climb the Jungfrau from the north side. And then after climbing a little known mountain, the Fußhorn, 3,700 odd meters above the Rieder Alp, she climbed nothing for the next month, and until she traversed the Matterhorn on the August the 28th. And I think this was the time when they had went over to Zermatt with the Almers with intention of climbing the Matterhorn, and then realized that Walker had already been there. Anyway, after traversing the Matterhorn, she was really got the bit between her teeth, as it were. And on the 5th of September, she climbed the Weisshorn by a route that had been climbed for the first time only the week before. And this was clearly a route that the Almers had set up for her, because they had led the first ascent the previous week. It went up the northeast face to the Grand Gendarme, and then along the more common route of the North Ridge to the summit. Well into her stride now, 5 days after the Weisshorn's success, she stood on top of the Dent Blanche, and 4 days after that became the first woman to climb the Bietschhorn. Now, this account she wrote up in the Alpine Club journal. It's called A Day and Night on the Bietschhorn, I think. But because of social prejudices and customs, it had to be published under Coolidge's name, because women weren't allowed or supposed to publish at that time. Which brings us neatly to the place of middle-class women in that period. So women generally were not expected to have a public presence, in print or otherwise. Serious education and strenuous exercise were thought harmful to their well-being. Independence really frowned upon. Occupations were almost non-existent for middle-class women. The home and family supposedly was their métier. Until 1870, married women couldn't keep any money or property they'd earned or inherited, nor have custody of their children. However, with the growth of women's mountaineering went a simultaneous increased pressure for reform of women's place in society. From the time Lucy Walker began climbing, women started to organise themselves, produce journals, hassle politicians for legal reform, push for entry into university and the professions. It is no coincidence that by the time Lucy and Meta stood on top of the Matterhorn, those demands for greater equality had won married women the right to keep hold of their money and property in the UK, although it was another 2 years before they could have custody of their children. Clearly, women had more than mountains to climb at this time, but the fact that they were climbing mountains contributed to the growing unrest and push for more freedom, fairness, and equality for women. Finally, I'd like to finish with the message that those who go on this anniversary trip, or those who maybe didn't get on the trip but nevertheless want to continue with their climbing, and in this particular year, are playing their part in demonstrating the freedom many women over hundreds of years have found and are still finding in the mountains. Freedoms that we often take for granted now in the UK, but others are still fighting for. Thank you. I'll now hand back to Melanie and look forward to the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Claire. That was a really interesting historical perspective, and a nice message there at the end as well about how mountains can actually or are actually tied up with freedom and equality for women. And yes, not everybody yet enjoys the freedoms that we experience. So now I'd like to pass on to Becky Coles. Becky is a mountaineering and climbing instructor and expedition leader based in North Wales, and that's where she's coming to us from today. She has climbed extensively throughout the Greater Ranges and the Alps, and she is the climbing coordinator for the Women Rise Up meet. So Becky, please.
Thank you very much, Melanie. So, thank you to Claire, who has so very well illustrated how Meta Brevoort and Lucy Walker were such pioneers. And in light of that, the AC really wanted to celebrate their achievements and inspire future generations of female alpinists. To do this, we thought we'd do what the AC does best, and that is to organise a meet. And this will take place near Zermatt at the end of August and beginning of September, COVID allowing, of course. And during this meet, we hope to climb the mountains Meta Brevoort and Lucy Walker climbed 150 years ago. So that will be the Hornley Ridge on the Matterhorn, the Matterhorn Traverse, the Weisshorn, the Dent Blanche, and the Bietschhorn. We advertised this meet and invited applicants, and we were delighted to receive over 200 applications. In addition to this, the Alpine Club subsidised 2 places to increase the opportunity for 2 women who may not have otherwise been able to partake in the meet. Initially, we planned to take 15 people on the meet, but because we had such an overwhelming response, we've doubled this now to 30 places. Meanwhile, the Swiss are also preparing their own celebrations for in July. And this includes an exhibition that the Zermatt Museum will hold, of which the Alpine Club has contributed to. The Swiss Tourist Board have reciprocated by being really supportive for the Women's Rise Up meet this summer. From the response we've had from the meet, the Alpine Club would really like to organise future women's meets, as there's clearly such an interest. So please keep an eye out for those in the future. Finally, this evening, I just wish to thank everyone for their interest, for coming along to this ClubCast, and also hope you will follow the progress of the Women's Rise Up meet. So I'm now going to hand it back to Melanie, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Becky, for telling us a little bit about what we are planning for the Women Rise Up meet. So now I'd like to move on to Catherine Destivelle to give us our final short talk of the evening before we open up for questions. So Catherine is an honorary member of the Alpine Club. She's the first and only female recipient of the Piolet Lifetime Achievement Award. She's well known for impressive solo rock and alpine climbs, and she's going to talk to us now about her inspiration for climbing. Thank you, Catherine.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your invitation. I'm very pleased to be able to speak to you today. So today, I didn't know what to say. First, I'm going to resume what I've done before since I'm young and very fast, and tell you why I've done this and this. So first, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So first, I'm not at all from the mountains. I'm from Paris. So when I was younger, I started to climb very early in Fontainebleau. Where I was very young, In fact, when I was young, I wanted to be a shepherd like Heidi. It was my first inspiration. I wanted to be like Heidi, and I wanted to be like Belle et Sébastien. I don't know if you know this cartoon. It's a film. It's a film. A little boy who lives in the mountain with a big dog, Belle, the name of the dog. So anyway, I was dreaming about that. So my parents told me that I should learn how to climb before living in the mountains. That's how it started. So I started very young because my father was very keen of climbing, but he was not a climber. He was not an alpinist. He just wanted us, because I'm the eldest of 6 children, and he was pushing us all the time to climb everywhere, on bridges, on everywhere. So from our early age, we climbed a lot. So at 12, I was at the Alpine Club, French Alpine Club, and here on this photo, I'm just 12. It was during my first course in mountains, my first stage. And so at that time, I was dreaming to just climb. So every weekend, every holidays, I wanted to go climbing. And at the age of 17, I've done quite a lot of big mountains like the Dru. I led the American Direct. I've done the North Face of Holland, Elfrad, and Civetta, and so on. But at 20 years old, I became a physiotherapist. It's not me on the photo. Why physiotherapist? Because I wanted to be better climber. So I thought it would be a good way to know how the muscles are working and how to train. So that's why, and I thought also I would have a lot of holidays for climbing. So it was my first goal. So, but I discovered it was not real. Okay, I knew how my body was working, but I didn't have any holidays and stuff like that. So, but I was lucky. After 5 years of working as a physiotherapist, a guy called me to ask me if I could climb for a film he wanted to do in the Verdon's Gorge. He called me because I met him once 3 or 4 years ago before, and he thought that I was climbing very fast. So that was the main reason. But because when he called me, I didn't climb anymore. I quit climbing while I was physiotherapist. So I was not climb. I didn't climb during maybe 4 years, but I was happy that he asked me to do this film. I thought it would be a good escape from my physiotherapist job, and so I've done the film. It was very hard for me because I didn't climb. I was not climbing since a while, and also he was asking me to climb at a technical level that no girls had reached before. So yeah, I trained during 2 months, and I was able to do this route. Hopefully it was a short route. So because I'm mostly a boulder climber, it was not so hard to be able to climb this. After that film, I was pushed to go to the first international competition in Bardonnecchia. I was quite surprised I won this competition, and so it was big new life for me, because people came and asked me if I could climb with they were sponsors. Ricardo Cassin, he came and he gave me a carabiner. He told me, if you go on climbing, I will be able to give you a contract, and you carry my harness and my carabiners and so on. So I was very impressed, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm able to just climb as a just be a professional climber. So after that competition, I had a lot of publicity, and a lot of sponsors came visit me. So I was quite lucky. And but just after that competition, I decided to go back to the mountains, and unfortunately I forgot that I was walking on a glacier and I fell in a crevasse. So I took a 35 meters fall. I broke my back and my pelvis. So my career was over as I saw that I was very in bad shape, but I was physiotherapist. So during 1 year, I trained very hard to recover, and decided to go on, and I came back to the next competition the next year, and I won this competition again. I was lucky because that time Linil was there, so it was harder for me to to win this one. But I at that time the rules of the competition were quite different. I was grumbling on my I was a speed climber and she was slower than me, so that's why I won. But anyway, I won this, and after these competitions, after 4 years of competition, I decided to go on expedition with Jeff Lowe. He invited me to climb on Trango Tower, Nameless Tower, and we free climbed the Yugoslav route. So I discovered that I was feeling very good in mountains. I like being in mountains, in fact. And and Jeff was very, very nice, and I learned a lot. And it was a good start to another type of climbing. I wanted to come back to the mountains. So first, my first dream after this competition, this climbing in Trango was to, Baltoro, was to realize my first dream. It was to solo climb the Bonatti pillar, because I knew I was able to do that, and I saw some guys who have done that. Three boys have done this climb before me, and so I thought, okay, maybe I'm able to. So after this expedition, I decided to go on this pillar. So it was a good memory. I've done it in 4 hours, and the weather was perfect. It was in October, nobody was there. Well, very nice memory. But when I came back to the base camp, to Chamonix, I was quite surprised that media compared me to Bonatti, and I thought, because they said Bonatti opened this route in 6 days, and Destivelle did it in 4 hours, so they don't know at all about climbing. So I thought it was not a comparison to do. It's absolutely unfair, and I thought that maybe I would like to know how it is to open a new route. So I decided to open my own route, and I found a spot on the right with nothing, but it was very difficult because the rock was blank, and I had to add climbing quite a lot, and I did not like that so much. It took me 11 days to climb this wall, but 11 days also because I was stuck in my tent during 4 days because of the bad weather. So, but after that climb, I thought, I should now, because people were quite, not all, but two people criticized me about this climb. They said as I was camping on the wall. So I was a little, it was not so nice. And I thought, okay, now I would like to become a real alpinist. That so far I've done only rock climbing. And so I decided that to learn how to climb on mixed wall, snow, ice, and rock together. And my first dream was to be able to climb the north face of the Eiger. In fact, the Eiger, I was dreaming about this face when I was 15. And I thought that maybe one day I will be able to climb this wall alone. I don't know why alone, but it was in my head, and probably because I heard about some climbers who have done it alone. But now I grew up, and I thought, okay, not now, it will be alone, solo climb, I don't want to take any risk, and I don't want to be a first female ascent. I want to be this climb to be just the first ascent. So I had to read a little bit more about the other climbers, about the other climbs who have been done before myself in solo, and all of them have been done by climbers who knew the route from before. They climbed it as a team before. So I thought I would do it without knowing the route on site, and in winter. But winter, it's just because of security. I didn't want to bet on rockfalls, so I decided to climb it in winter to just avoid rockfalls. So I had to train quite a lot, and during 1 year I've done that, training quite seriously. And Jeff Lowe was a very good teacher for me, and we have done quite a lot in the Alps. So I've done it in 92 and 93. I thought, okay, now I should be able to climb the Grand Juras. I knew it would be more technical. So, and to be a first ascent, I had to go in winter alone, solo, because nobody had done that before myself, but before I decided. But when I went to this climb, or one day before, a young guy was doing the same thing. But so I've done the second ascent in winter solo. And Matterhorn, I've done it the next year. I just repeated the route of Bonatti, but I found out that nobody had repeated it after Bonatti, so it was very strange because I didn't know why. So it took me four days. It was, en fait, the route was the rock was very smooth and very compact and difficult to secure yourself on this wall. So maybe that's why it was long. And also the conditions were not great. I had big snow mushroom everywhere, so it was not so nice. But anyway, so during these years, I have done also some expedition. I went on Latok, with Jeff Lowe, on Makalu. Well, the photo is not so great here, but I wanted to climb the west pillar that the French have done, but I wanted to climb it in an Alpine style. I think I was too ambitious for that, and hopefully we were stuck by the Moussoon at 7,600 meters, because I think it was not very realistic. We had no fixed ropes, nothing, just us with an alpine rope, and it was not very secure, I think. After this experience, I decided to go on Shishapangma, and I repeated the route of Erhardt, Loretan, Jean Troyer, Courtica. And with Eric Decamp, we wanted to do to climb it in the same way than they have done, with only one rucksack for two, and with no ropes, nothing. We did, but we were lucky. We had bad weather, and during the night we were climbing, and so we got stuck in a cave during one day, and then we were able to go on and reach the summit turret. It's not the real top, because the real top was more on the right, and it was too dangerous to go there with no ropes and at night or above that. So we are quite tired, and yeah. And then I went to on Annapurna. I wanted to open a new route on this pillar you can see here. We had very, very bad weather, and the conditions were not good. We had some seracs on the route. So we just decided to come back. I was there with Eric Decamp. And then we went on, the next year we went on Antarctica to explore. I thought the weather would be more stable, it's less high and daylight all the time. So I thought it would be very, very nice to just go and without paying attention to the bad weather and so on. And unfortunately, I've done a big mistake after a climb. The climb of you see this peak in the middle. We climbed this, and on top, I don't know what I've done. I lost my balance and I landed with a broken leg, an open fracture. So I'm not going to tell you how we went down, but it was quite a story. I was lucky to survive to this accident. So after that, I decided I wanted a kid. With Eric, we were, so here is Victor. He's on this photo, he's 17 or 18 now, he's 23. Everybody asks me what he does. He doesn't climb, but he's a trombonist, music. So and now what I'm doing is I'm publishing books. And I was telling yesterday to Victor Sanders that I was working on a book with, it's a book about the first female expedition in Himalayas on Choyu with Claude Cogan. Here you can see Micheline Rambaud. She is 94 or today. And she discovered that she had all her notes about this expedition. So I decided to publish the notes and the photos. They are quite nice, and the notes she had done are very, very, very nice. And she has a lot of humor. She was there with Claude Cogan here on the right, and she was with two English women, Dorothée Gravina on the left and Margaret Darval. She was at the Alpine Club. It was in 1959. And so it was very, very interesting to discover these notes she wrote. Micheline was the filmmaker of the expedition. She was not a climber, but she was telling the story all the way up to show you. The woman who is waving the hand is Claude Cogan. Behind her is Jeanne Franco. In front of Claude Cogan is Loulou Boulaz, the best woman climber at that time in the world. She had done a lot. She's Swiss. And Micheline, who wrote the notes, these notes, is on the right. Voilà. And the doctor is on the front, the first one who has the bag Air France. So here they are. And then Claude was working she was doing, I think, some clothes. And so she designed also the down jacket and stuff like that for their expedition. And the ambience was quite nice. You can see Dorothée, you can see her on the right with she's blonde hair. She has in her arm is the daughter of Tenzing, who was on Everest, and the daughter and the other girls on the left of them are the cousin and another daughter of Tenzing. So so just women. And a lot of Japanese were working on this expedition. Unfortunately, four people died during the expedition. Claude Cogan, the Belgian girl, Claudine, I don't remember her name, and two Sherpas. So that's why they didn't write anything after this expedition. It was, but Micheline had done the film. But and you can see it on internet, on YouTube. It's show you if you want that, I will send you the link. Here they are. Yeah, we can see their clothes and their boots and everything. It's interesting. 59. It was an. Okay, so that's all. Thank you. Sorry, it's finished.
Thank you very
questions?
much. Thank you, Catherine. That was lovely to hear your inspirations, a bit about your climbs, and also lovely to hear that historical perspective at the end, and tying it all up with other pioneering women. So thank you for that. So well, I certainly have I have some questions, definitely, but we'd now like to open questions to the audience. So if you do have questions, please raise your hand using the reactions function at the bottom, and then we'll be able to see you. You can also, if you're feeling shy, you can type your question in the chat. But if you're feeling that you'd like to ask your question in person, then please do switch on your video and raise your hand, and we'll come to you. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, don't forget you can also catch up on all the previous Clubcasts on the AC Library YouTube page. So do go over there and see some of the other things that we've been talking about over the past year. So I'll kick off with a first question. So a simple one, maybe. Catherine, you said that you're into publishing these days. At the end, what's your favorite book, or what would you take with you to a desert island?
Not a mountain book. No, right now I have enough of that. But I like that, because you can see when I speak about this, I like it. But right now I'm dreaming to read something else, because I don't have any time to read. So what kind of book I would bring? I didn't think about this, but I don't know. I don't know.
Sometimes there's too much choice. I think that I'd want to have a range of things, different subjects, like you say. You don't want to just stick to one thing. What about? Can I ask you about your attitude to risk? You've done some astonishing climbs, and you did say earlier that you don't want to take any extra risks, and you talked about doing the Eiger in winter to avoid the rockfall. So when you're thinking about the activities, and particularly the really challenging ones where you're really pushing the boundaries, how do you minimize the risks of your activities?
Just work very hard, train a lot, and read a lot about this, and look at photos and so on, and just have it in my mind. And I'm discovering right now with publishing books that I'm a hard worker, and I'm able to work very hard and a lot. So it's for this, it's a real big discovery for me, because I didn't know I was so focused on things, and I'm unable to do other things altogether. It's just when I climb, I just climb, and I've done that. Mountaineering, I've done only mountaineering climbing. So now I'm publishing books, I'm just do that. When I was physiotherapist, I was exactly the same. 5 years full time, learn a lot, and then do something else later. And it's nice, but it's also very, in my head, it's very, I'm enthusiastic all the time, and then one day when I have enough, I just change. But I'm able to be enthusiastic very fast, but I can't be enthusiastic for everything at the same time.
That's probably quite wise, so you can really focus.
How would you say mono? Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. With English, I'm not so. I can't express myself very well, but
I suppose we'd say maybe a singular focus.
Yeah.
So you're just concentrating on the one thing all the time. Yeah, great, interesting. Claire, you have a question.
Yeah, yes, sorry, just checking I was unmuted. Yeah, Catherine, from one physio to another, actually ex-physio now, I'd be really interested to know what your training was involved. Did you just climb to get fit? Did you go to the gym? If you went to the gym, what did you do? Did you do endurance training, running? Can you give us a kind of a sketch of
at that time we didn't train much, but I think I was among the first to train a little at home, and I was not doing much, but I was, how we gain some power. You don't need much, just 6 or 10 very hard move, or very hard. You stand on a small hold, but you use the maximum you can, and you gain some strength like that. And above that, I was climbing. That's all. And for my the rest of the how do you say that, le foncier, my length and everything, I was biking or walking in mountains, but no, not much.
Okay.
I was not very. I know that if I do too much, I'm my head is not following. In mountains, you need to train, but you need to want very. You have to desire.
Yeah.
Because if you are going too much time in mountains, you lose your desire. It's and you are less focused too. I think when you don't go there too often, it's you are very focused when you go there. Focus on security, focus on what you do, and it was my attitude, because I wanted to. I like to have pleasure first.
Yeah, always do the climbs for fun. We have another question in the chat from Adele. She says that she remembers reading that your parents not only encouraged you to climb, but never told you to be careful. As a parent and grandparent, it can be quite difficult not to tell your child to be careful. So how important do you feel that it is to let children take their own risks?
I think it's important. I thank my parents to allow me to do what I have done. I think they didn't really know what I was doing, but also they thought they were, they were seeing that I was very happy with what I was doing. So I think that's why they let me go, because I was very happy, and I'm lucky my son doesn't climb, but never I would say to him, don't go climbing. But he likes music, so I push him to go this way, and I encourage him, because I think it's important for anybody to realize their dreams, or to follow the things they like, and that's why my parents were very, very nice, and I think they were nice with all of us. We as I told you, we are 6, and all of us are doing something different, but like a passion. I have one sister who is a violinist, another one is pianist, another one is I'm not going to tell everything, but but it's a job of passion. Yeah.
That's nice. So they managed to encourage you all and somehow instill in you all that you should follow your passions or follow your dreams, which is really a lovely thing.
Yeah, and I think one thing was very good, that at 13 I asked them if I could walk around the massif of Weisshorn, and they said yes, you can go. And they let me go, and they dropped me at La Grave, and they told me, we'll pick you up in 10 days. I was just 13 or 14, I don't remember. But at that time we had no phone, nothing, and I had just my rucksack, and quite happy to do that. And I think it's important when parents just trust you and let you go where you. It's if the dream is not too stupid, but they thought that I prepared very carefully my tour, and I was very happy to do that.
It's incredible. It's a lot of a trust to put in such a young person, isn't it? But I think you were lucky to have that.
Yeah, I was very lucky. And so when my son asked me some stuff like that, I trust him, and I say, okay, you should go.
Great. So we have another question from Veronica. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi. Please call me Ronnie. I should really change my screen name. Thanks, Catherine. Fascinating talk. I'd just like to know how you deal with any feelings of fear or self-doubt or like uncertainty about the outcome, because obviously you've achieved some amazing things, and I feel like the physical aspect is one, but the mental aspect is also very important. So I'd really like to understand a bit more about that.
Each time I go somewhere, I'm if I'm scared, I don't go. When I'm not scared anymore, it means that I'm ready, but it means that I've worked a lot in before to be able to think, okay, now I'm ready. I will not take any risk. I have a big safety margin. I must admit that I have big safety margin on these climbs. It was not so hard for my level of climbing, and so I was okay. I don't think I would have been able to solo climb 7B or 7C like these guys are able to climb. I was soloing on 6A at that time maximum, and remember at that time I was warming up in 7A, so it was okay. No, I barely climb at 6A, but it's like that. I don't climb enough, but that's why at that time I did not think I was taking any risk. I was sure that, and also the climb I chose were not so steep. So if you are very technical, you move like a cat on the wall, but you are not hanging on your arms. So it's another perspective when you imagine. It's on granite in Chamonix. It's never very rare that it's very, very steep. It's not so. So it's a mental game. Not game. It's a mental training. Imagine yourself in this type of climb, and I never had any problem at that time on this type. So that's why I thought I was calm.
Do you feel that it's over time you've become like more mentally strong, or is it something that you had that strength when you were young?
I think I built that strength when I was young because I used to climb a lot with Pierre Richard, who was my friend at that time, and we used to do a lot of climbing very fast. And how you do when you go fast, you are not solo, but you climb also same time all together. So you must not fall because so I was trained for that. And since I was very young, at 14, 15, 16, I've done a lot in Dolomites, in the Vercors, in the Verdon. And every day we used to climb 2 or 3 routes. We were climbing a lot. And I would not be able to do the same now. Now I'm impressed what we have done, but it was for us, it was normal. So we were climbing fast and all together at the same time. So it's not a solo, but kind of. You have to trust your companion, and you have to you must not fall.
Yeah, steely stuff. We've got a question here from YouTube as well, from Jean-Baptiste Ho. He says, how would you compare British and French mountaineering?
We don't have the same spirit. I must admit that I prefer the English spirit, because I don't know if it's still the same, but before they were, even when the weather was bad, they were climbing. And they are climbing, and so I think it's great. Just be outside. Peu importe le temps, the weather must, even if the weather is bad, they don't change their plan. And so I like that. It's more adventure, it's more, but I don't know if they change or not. But at my generation, they were like that.
Thank you. Right, we've got some other questions in the chat as well. We've got one for Claire. Remember that you can ask questions to the other speakers as well if you like, and do raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question in person. So a question here for Claire. You indicated that women's mountaineering was important in political change. What do we need to be doing now that is not political to help to continue to force positive changes for women, as we're still so far behind inequality in many areas?
Right, and that's interesting. In a way, it's kind of misinterpreted a little bit what I said, in that I think it's a bit far-fetched to say mountaineering was important in political change. I think the mountaineering came about because of the mood change that was going on, because women were being successful on the political front, or at least in terms of they were lobbying politicians for changes in the law. And there was a great movement in 1867 for the Reform Act to include women. They actually failed in that, but there was this kind of momentum building, of which mountaineering was one of them. So I think, what do we need to do now? Well, I think, things are improving, but I think what I see consistently, is that women, sometimes we're our own worst enemy, in that we're not necessarily, we're not good at self-advertising and putting ourselves forward. We tend to kind of undersell ourselves in what we can do. I mean, this is sort of well known, isn't it? That, a guy who's going for a job application will make sure he's fulfilled all 10 criteria. Oh, sorry, he won't worry that he hasn't fulfilled all 10 criteria. He'll only have done 2, but he'll be quite sure that he's kind of up to apply. And I think, whereas women would, we tend to hold back. So I think encouraging women around you to go for it, whether that's in a job situation, but also in trying things out, like mountaineering, like climbing. Why are there fewer women in mountain huts, out on the, and out on the hill? You see quite a few now in climbing, climbing walls, but less so outside. And I think we all need to encourage our friends and family, to have a bit more self-confidence, I think. So I think it would be that more than politics.
Thank you. Nick, would you like to ask your question? Oh, you've muted.
Thanks, Melanie. Sorry, you just caught me with my mouthful.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Catherine, thank you. It's a wonderful evening, wonderful talk. But I confess my question was actually suggested by Victor. So the question was, why publishing and why books after such a wonderful physically active career?
I don't know, because I like it. It's very strange. I'm working like crazy, and yeah, I like the transmission. I like people to discover what I think are nice to read about what we like, mountains or climbing, or so it's just to share. And I want, because I don't the publishers in France, they are not really climbers, and so each time it's not exactly what I would expect, and yeah, it's right now I'm working quite a lot with Vertebrate, and yeah, they are publishing good books too, and I hope I publish good books too, but I try my best, and I try to publish some books that people would be worried to publish because they don't really know. So it's, yeah, sometimes I think I'm crazy, just to work so hard for these books, but I can't help myself. It's just because I like it. It's like climbing, just focus on it, and also that the problem with publishing is it doesn't depend on yourself. It depends of the writer, of the people who are around you to help you, and so it's a lot. And at the end, I'm just a human, and I can't do everything. So yeah, it's and also I think I published too much. I'm publishing this year 20 books. It's just too much. But I can't say no. I never say no, in fact. So I should say no, and because I'm going to be crazy, to become crazy. But yeah,
it's nice to have things to focus on that you really love, and be
but
working on
I
things
don't
you
have
enjoy.
any time less for anything else. So it's even my friends, I don't see them, my family, and so it's nice, but on another way, it's complicated to work like that all the time.
Yeah, it can be difficult to get the balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question kind of to everybody here, so whoever wants to take it. So Robin Campbell says that interested in the strong response to participate in an all-women's meet. So was it perhaps wrong to close the Ladies Alpine Club? What do you think?
Sorry, I didn't listen. I was reading on the right. There are a lot of things.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions.
Yeah. Sorry. Could you repeat? Sorry, I'm very sorry.
Yeah. So this is to all of the speakers. Robin Campbell finds it interesting that there was a strong response for women to participate in an all women meet, and so perhaps was it wrong to close the Ladies Alpine Club? Is there a place for these all women arenas?
Can I just add something to that?
Of course.
Yeah, sorry, I think, coming back to what I was just talking about with confidence, I think if you've got a smaller group joins a bigger group, which is exactly what happened to the Women's Alpine Club in 1974, sorry, I think it then got subsumed within a club that was male dominant. And I think because women don't have so much confidence, or didn't have, I think there would be an argument for saying that it suffered from that amalgamation. But hopefully with things like we're organising now, we're seeing the back of that. And that's not something that's, that there's so many more women in the Alpine Club now, and people like yourself, Melanie, who've done amazing things. So I think maybe in the past you could have said there was a reason for them not amalgamating, but now I think we're much better together rather than apart.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that too, Melanie. Well, I think the Ladies Alpine Club came out of necessity because there wasn't an option for women to join any other Alpine club. And that I think the Pinnacle Club should get a mention here at some point as well, because they've got their centenary year this year. So so these clubs came out of necessity. Now what I think we're seeing is that there's been so much interest in women's meets, all women climbing courses I'm involved quite a lot with, and other women's climbing clubs as well. And I think that's coming about from sort of a slightly different perspective, in the sense that women want to find the confidence that Claire's talking about, and they're finding it easier to do that with an all-female environment. And I think it's great that if that is available for women, to get more women into climbing, because actually we're seeing a lot of women kind of coming through sport climbing and bouldering and intertrad climbing, but moving on to winter climbing and alpinism, there's still actually very few women out there. So it would be super to see, to encourage women in whatever way they feel comfortable to come and join us and come into alpine climbing and winter climbing as well.
Yeah, it's good to have the options, isn't it? Like to have the possibility of being in like a really supportive environment like the Alpine Club with men and women. But then if you do need that extra help to gain the confidence to be able to climb with women, if you need that as a step. So there are some other questions here as well in the chat. There's another question from YouTube for Catherine. Catherine, have you ever climbed in the Balkans? No. This is from Kerr Fleming.
No, I didn't visit everywhere. No. No.
Still more places to go. And there's another question from John, wondering about, he says, did your sense of willingness to assume risk or to climb harder come as a consequence of your experience in Antarctica? Or was it becoming a mother, or was it becoming older and wanting a change in general? What do you think like drove that willingness to assume or to climb harder?
No, I became a mother, but it's not the reason why I don't climb so much now. Just because when he was born, I preferred to be with him and stay with him and be there, and that's all. I was focused on my kid. Like I told you, I can't do different things altogether. So it's just I was focused on my son, and what I've done. I was writing a little bit. I was when he was small, and I was climbing still, but less because I didn't. I wanted to be there when he was at home. So that's all. And I was thinking about the question of Victor, why I like books. It's also something concrete. At the end, you create something. It's quite nice to have at the end a result, and each time it's a big moment. It's not a birth, but not far. It's so much work, and it's a teamwork too. It's quite interesting too. It's as I said, I'm not alone to work on this, because I can't do everything, and also when I work with people, it's quite nice, and so I like all these things. I do. Yeah, it's difficult to answer to the question of Victor, because it's a full package.
Yeah, no, it's interesting what you say. I identify with that as well, like the idea of writing a book being like almost like you're birthing something. It's just this really intense experience, but you create something and you get this package at the end of it, and it's incredibly satisfying. I can understand.
And even I'm not the writer, but I want the book to be the best as possible. and with nice photos and with nice printing and no fault. Try to, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's lovely. So another question to all the speakers this time. This is from Claire Cummings. Were there any people who inspired you when you were beginning to climb?
For me or for? It's,
you can go first. Yeah, for everybody.
I already spoke about that. It was Heidi.
Heidi, yeah.
but no kidding. But I liked, when I was young, my parents had a book about the Alps, and I saw Rebuffa on top of, he was sitting on top of some peak, and I was dreaming to be at his place, on top of the peak. But he was not climbing, he was just sitting there and watching the area around, and I thought it was very, very interesting, very nice. Yeah, but it was just his attitude was nice, just looking around him.
Relaxed in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Claire or Becky?
Some light.
Do you have a who inspired you when you were beginning to climb?
Well, actually, yeah, I do really think it has been other women, because it is so male dominated in the mountains beforehand. Seeing other women going out and climbing, and not necessarily even climbing really hard or anything like that, just being competent in the mountains has been really inspiring to me, and then has made me think, oh, well, you know, maybe I can do that too. And it's really hard when you can't see someone in your own image going out and doing that, to think that you might be able to do it yourself. So yeah, there's been lots of women. I've been really fortunate to have loads of female role models there that made me think, oh, maybe I can go and do that. Maybe I can go and enjoy time in the Alps myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think it was mainly when I was very green and really didn't know much about it. We decided we would ski to the haute route, having never put on a pair of touring skis in my life before, and we did it guideless, and it was fantastic, I have to say. But I was just inspired by all the people who helped us along the way, obviously recognizing what a bunch of numpties we completely were. But they really helped. And then that was my first experience really of those beautiful alpine mornings, and then being in the high mountains in the evenings. Yeah, what could be better?
Yeah, it's lovely. It's making me miss it. So remember that if you want to ask a question, you can put your hand up, use the reaction button at the bottom, and you can ask your question live. Otherwise, we're getting some in the chat. So another question that's going to go to all of you, or any of you who want to answer. Do you have a most treasured memory in the mountains? And like, what is it and what made it special?
Well, I think the best memories in the mountains are really about the kind of exactly the exact route or anything like that. It's usually the people that you're with, and I guess some people call it the flow state that you can get into when you're climbing, where actually things are coming, you know, are challenging, but still you're moving really fluidly and thinking really sharply and making those kind of key decisions that you're feeling are going well, and those things in the mountains, when you're in that state and when you're with people that you're working really well together. I think those are the moments that are really treasured with, rather than exact mountains or routes for me.
Yeah, I always remember just, not specific places, but times when you're just sort of, you get a moment to just sit and like look out at the view or, your surroundings, and you just sort of take it all in and think, I'm so lucky to actually be in this place right now.
Absolutely.
Do Claire or Catherine, do you have any treasured memory that you'd like to share?
It's difficult. I'm ambiguous in my head. I like being in the mountains, but the best place I like, it's when I come back and meet the cows in the pâturage. How would you say that about in the green field?
Yeah,
The meadows.
Yeah, because it's finished. You can relax. But yeah,
Like the first cup of tea when you get in.
yeah, exactly. And the first shower and but I like all the, when it's during one day, I like the whole day going. It's exciting, touching the rock. Wow, it's nice. Then yeah, climbing. Okay, we climb and go down, but the coming back is very nice. It's very nice, and when you touch the green, it's beautiful. But in fact, I think because when I was young, I was dreaming about these girls who were keeping the sheep, and I think it's still in my head a little.
Yeah, being out in the pastures. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, I've just got a very silly question to ask Becky. When you all go on this fantastic celebration, are you going to celebrate in the style of the 19th century? Because you wouldn't go up without a good bottle of champagne for the top.
Champagne has been mentioned a few times. I particularly like the style in the fact that we get someone to carry the champagne for us, so we can be served that when we get to the top. That would be very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And Claire, speaking of doing things in the old style, did the ladies in the 1870s really climb in skirts, do you think, or did they change behind the nearest rock as soon as they were out of the village?
Well, Lucy Walker definitely did climb in skirts, but she took off several outer layers, so she didn't. When she left the village, she had a very, very long one on, and then would take that off and probably stow it somewhere. And then they often climbed in what they called petticoats, not what we would know as a petticoat, really. And then underneath, they would have had long johns and I know more than you'd care to know, actually, about Victorian underclothes, which I won't take you to now. But basically, they did. It wasn't as cumbersome as we might imagine, and really, even into the sort of 1890s, when women were beginning to wear breeches, some of the really good climbers still stayed in skirts. And one wrote about how she felt she had greater movement in the skirt than the breeches, because obviously they were heavy wooden breeches, not like our nice modern materials. So I think we risk putting our 21st century minds into the 19th century. So yes, actually in the 1870s, they definitely would have climbed in a skirt.
Interesting. And I suppose, they would have been very comfortable in that kind of attire. Yeah. Whereas, we look at it and think, that must be really difficult.
Yeah, they were used to moving like that. It would have been a bit foreign for them, really, to wear trousers or breeches. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's another question here from Jenny Dart. She says, what recommendations would you give to those women who want to get into alpine climbing from hill walking or rock climbing, but aren't sure what the first steps into alpinism should be? Becky, maybe do you want to give some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, sure. So I would say if you're a hill walker or rock climber, is to get some experience on snow and ice first. And you could do that by going out to the Alps, or you could do that if you're UK based, going up and experiencing Scottish winter. Hopefully that won't put you off too much. And yeah, so getting into crampons and using an ice axe in a more walking situation, and then kind of moving on to mountaineering situations as well. And that gives a really good base for for the snowier elements of alpinism. And then you can also spend some time doing kind of the more scrambly mountaineering-y routes if you're UK based again. Lots of options in North Wales, the Lake District, and up in the Scottish Highlands as well. And learning to move over that sort of rocky terrain efficiently, because once you get out into the Alps, the routes are bigger and longer, and that efficiency becomes really important. So those are the steps you can do in the UK, and then it's a matter of going out to the Alps. And along any of these steps, you might want to take some instruction, or you can learn off more experienced people. So you could become an aspirant member of the Alpine Club, or there is the Women's Alpine Adventure Club that Jen is involved with as well. So those are opportunities to learn of more experienced people, or access kind of courses as well, skills courses. But at some point you have to go out to the Alps and have a go. And again, there is support there with courses. So if you're under 30 and UK based, you could apply to a Conville course to learn some skills there. But I would say, first Alpine route, research it, and just start off at lower elevations. So don't go to 4,000 meters straight off, you won't feel very well, and easier grades. And learn about crevasse rescue once you're out in the Alps as well. That's something we can't do in the UK. And from there, just gradually build a really good foundation by lots of lower grades, and gradually building up your experience. Yeah, there's a real think of it as a real apprenticeship as well, and kind of it's not something quick that you're going to learn, it's something that you experience steadily over time.
Yeah, that's really good advice, particularly at the end, that you do. It does take time to build up these the skills. And actually, something I think that's often forgotten is it's not just about the climbing, particularly if you want to do bigger things like, you know, longer days or bigger expeditions. It's also about like how you look after yourself, like the nutrition and you like keeping warm, you know, all of those kind of things like really come into it as well. And so that's just sort of practice and experience. And actually I could add that Arctic experience can be really helpful for that if you want to get into mountaineering, like more mountaineering or higher mountaineering, because personally I found it useful to be able to learn to tackle cold and altitude separately, because I think sometimes when you go up high and you get really cold, you can sometimes you can think that everything that you're suffering is altitude sickness, where actually it might not be. So the Arctic can be quite helpful as well. So we're kind of winding up now. I've got another question for Catherine that I'm going to ask, and if you have any other burning questions, then do put them in the chat before we wrap up. So Catherine, another one on publishing. This is from YouTube, again from Jean-Baptiste. Do you think of publishing in English as well? I believe your books are in French at the moment. Is that right?
I'm living in France, so yeah, I can't publish in English because it's you have to sell the books after you publish them. So I'm not in the right country to publish in English. So Vertebrate does that very well, and you have Vertebrate, you have you have a lot of very good English publisher, and we almost publish the same books. We try because yeah, we share our work, and so most of the time when the book is good, you can find it in English or in Spanish or Italian. And
That's good. So other non-French readers won't be missing out then, you're saying?
Sorry.
So the non-French readers won't be missing out. They can actually find the books by other publishers.
Probably, yeah. Not all, because sometimes they are only for French readers. English readers are not exactly the same than the French or Canadian French, or Belgium. So it's Swiss. People don't have the same habit for reading. So it's difficult. It's like clothes. You have some fashion in UK, some fashion in French, and so you can't sell exactly the same product for each country. So exactly the same in France. So I can't, and also it's difficult already to publish in French. Or that's all. I've done this mistake once. I will not do it anymore. We have
your market.
The ninth grade, the whole story of free climbing, and I've done it in English, in Spanish and French all together. A stupid mistake. But because it's difficult to I'm not in UK for that, and it's complicated.
Yeah, you're right. You know the market, and like you said before, you need to focus, and so that's what you do.
Focus. I'm focused on books, preparing the books and publishing them, but then you have to sell them, and I'm less good at selling. It's another job, so I have to progress, a lot of progress, but it's less interesting to sell than to make them.
Thank you. So we've got one final question, which is also from YouTube, from Sanaz Baramani. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry if not. What is your favorite climbing route and summit of all time?
For me?
Yes.
My favorite, I don't know. I like to change. It depends on the season, and I have good memory in Chamonix, but I have good memory in Fontainebleau on little boulders. It's so nice. So I like all kind of places, and I don't have any favorite place. It's just I like also adventure. I don't have any. My memory, my we consider my garden is Fontainebleau. So my memory from when I was very young, it's Fontainebleau. So it's my roots are there. So Fontainebleau maybe. Even if I don't go for so much, because I live in Chamonix now, near Chamonix. So
it's like there's no place like home. Sometimes that familiarity can be lovely. Great. Well, I'm going to wrap up there. I want to thank all of the speakers again for a really inspiring evening. It's been wonderful, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending as well. Please have a look at the Alpine Club library page, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for future updates. And remember that the Alpine Club always welcomes new members, and do get in touch if you'd like to join. So members, please feel free to stick around for an informal chat at the end. If you'd now all like to unmute yourselves, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us tonight, and I hope you all keep safe wherever you are. So I'd like you to all put your hands together to applaud tonight's speakers. Good night.
Okay.
I have an